The
Here you
waiter
go.
who
Be
changed
careful,
two
it's hot.
lives forever.
Okay, thank you. Is your
Marcus
cheek
Williams
okay?
wiped
It'll
down the
feel
last
better.
table of the
Thanks.
night, his shoulders aching from another 12-hour shift at Henderson's Diner. The small restaurant in downtown Chicago wasn't fancy, but it was honest work, and Marcus took pride in serving every customer with a warm smile. It was a freezing February evening in 1985 when two small faces pressed against the foggy window of the diner. Marcus noticed them immediately. A boy and a girl, no older than 8 and 10, their clothes thin and tattered, their eyes hollow with hunger. Without hesitation, Marcus pushed open the door. "You kids okay out there?" "It's freezing." The boy, trembling, spoke first. "We're fine, mister, just looking." But Marcus knew better. He'd grown up poor himself, knew the look of children who hadn't eaten in days. "Come inside. Let's get you warmed up." The children hesitated, glancing at each other nervously. The girl finally whispered, "We don't have any money." Marcus's heart broke a little. "That's all right. Consider it my treat. Come on now before you catch pneumonia." A meal that would echo through decades inside the warm diner. Marcus sat the children, Daniel and Sarah, in a corner booth. He brought them hot chocolate first, watching their frozen fingers wrap around the mugs gratefully. Then came the food, hamburgers, fries, soup, and apple pie. Simple diner food, but to these children it was a feast. As they ate, their story tumbled out. Their parents had died in a car accident 3 months earlier. They'd been shuffled between distant relatives who didn't want them, finally ending up on the streets. They were trying to survive, sleeping in abandoned buildings, eating from garbage cans when they could. Marcus listened, his eyes glistening. When his shift ended at midnight, he couldn't just send them back into the cold. He took them to his small apartment, gave them his bed while he slept on the couch, and the next morning, he did something that would change all their lives. He called child services, yes, but he also made a promise. He would check on them, wherever they ended up. He would make sure they were okay. The years that followed, Marcus wasn't a wealthy man. He made minimum wage plus tips, lived in a one-bedroom apartment, and drove a 15-year-old car that broke down more often than it ran. But every month, without fail, he sent what he could to Daniel and Sarah's foster home. $5, $10, sometimes $20 when he'd had a good week in tips. He wrote them letters, encouraging them to stay in school, to dream big, to remember that someone believed in them. He visited when he could afford the bus fare, showing up with small gifts, used books, warm socks, a basketball for Daniel, art supplies for Sarah. The foster parents were kind people, but they had limited resources and several other children. Marcus's contributions, small as they were, made a difference. A winter coat here, school supplies there, a birthday cake when no one else remembered. As the years passed, Marcus watched the children grow through letters and occasional visits. Daniel was smart, excelling in mathematics. Sarah had a gift for painting. Marcus encouraged them both relentlessly. "You can be anything you want to be," he told them during every visit. "Don't let anybody tell you different." Dreams taking flight when Daniel graduated high school with a scholarship to study engineering at Northwestern University. Marcus was there, his old suit pressed, and his pride unmeasurable. When Sarah got accepted to the Art Institute of Chicago, he wept with joy. Marcus continued working at Henderson's Diner, his hair turning gray, his back growing more tired. But he never stopped checking in on his kids, as he called them. He attended Daniel's college graduation and then his master's degree ceremony. He went to Sarah's first art exhibition, buying one of her paintings even though it meant eating ramen for a month. The children had become adults, successful adults, but they never forgot the waiter who had saved their lives that cold February night. The letter 22 years after that first encounter, Marcus received a formal-looking letter at the diner. Inside was an invitation to visit an address across town, signed by Daniel and Sarah. His heart swelled with curiosity and joy. He hadn't seen them in person for almost a year, though they talked on the phone regularly. On the appointed Saturday morning, Marcus put on his best suit, the same one he'd worn to their graduations, now a bit tight around the middle, and took the bus across town. The address led him to an upscale hotel, and he felt a bit out of place walking through the gleaming lobby. A well-dressed young man approached him. It took Marcus a moment to recognize Daniel, now 30 years old, in an expensive suit. "Marcus!" Daniel embraced him warmly. "Thank you for coming. Sarah's waiting outside." Confused but delighted, Marcus followed Daniel through the hotel. His mind was spinning with questions. What were they doing at such a fancy place? The impossible gift. As they stepped outside, Marcus stopped dead in his tracks. There, parked at the curb, was a gleaming silver Rolls-Royce, tied with an enormous red bow. Sarah stood beside it, tears streaming down her face, a huge smile on her lips. What's going on?" Marcus stammered. Daniel and Sarah stood on either side of him, each taking one of his hands. "Marcus," Sarah began, her voice thick with emotion. 22 years ago, you saved our lives. You gave us food when we were starving. You gave us hope when we had none. You gave us a future when it looked like we had nothing ahead of us but darkness. You worked minimum wage," Daniel continued, "but you sent us money every month. You believed in us when we didn't believe in ourselves. You were at every graduation, every important moment. You've been more than a friend. You've been our family." Sarah wiped her eyes. "I'm now a successful artist. My paintings sell for thousands of dollars. Daniel is a senior engineer at a tech company he helped develop. We both did well, Marcus, but not because we're special. We succeeded because someone showed us that we mattered. This car," Daniel gestured to the Rolls-Royce, "is legally yours. But it's more than just a car. It's a symbol. Inside that hotel, we've also purchased you something else." They led a stunned Marcus back inside to the front desk, where the manager handed him a key card and a folder of documents. "A suite?" Marcus whispered, looking at the key. "Not just a suite," Sarah said gently. "A penthouse apartment, fully paid for the rest of your life. No rent, no worries. You'll never have to work. Another 12-hour shift on your feet again unless you want to." Marcus's legs gave out, and he sat heavily in a lobby chair, tears flowing freely down his weathered face. I can't. This is too much." Daniel knelt beside him. "Marcus, you gave us your everything when you had almost nothing. You saw two scared, hungry kids and you didn't look away. You didn't just help us that one night. You helped us for 22 years. This doesn't even come close to repaying what you've given us." The true reward. Marcus moved into his penthouse apartment the following week. The Rolls-Royce sat in the parking garage. He was almost afraid to drive it at first, but more than the luxury, more than the financial security, what filled his heart was something else entirely. Every Sunday, Daniel and Sarah came for dinner. They brought their own families now. Daniel had married, Sarah was engaged, the penthouse filled with laughter, with children calling him Grandpa Marcus, with the warmth of family. Marcus had spent 22 years giving everything he could to two orphaned children, never expecting anything in return. He'd done it because it was right, because they needed help, because his heart couldn't do otherwise. Now sitting in his comfortable home, surrounded by the people he loved, Marcus understood something profound. The real gift hadn't been the car or the apartment, as generous as those were. The real gift was seeing two frightened, hungry children grow into loving, successful, generous adults. The real gift was knowing that kindness, even when you have little to give, can echo through decades and change lives forever. One small act of compassion on a cold February night had blossomed into a family, a legacy, and a reminder that what we give from the heart comes back to us multiplied in ways we could never imagine. Marcus Williams, the waiter who fed two orphans with his minimum wage salary and his maximum love, had indeed been repaid, not in silver and luxury, but in something far more valuable, the knowledge that his life had mattered, that his kindness had created ripples that would continue far beyond his years.